If I had to pick a karaoke partner and song, I would have to go with the one and only Nina Simone, singing her song Sinner Man. I think that would just be the greatest honor of my life to be able to do that.
Louis Armstrong, and I'd be singing What a Wonderful World with him.
Probably be Akon. I think in the 2000s, 2010s kind of marked my phase, and he's not up there anymore, but still there's a lot of memories attached to it. So like
At Last with Etta James.
My Favorite Things by John Coltrane with John Coltrane. I don't play the saxophone or anything, but I'd probably just stand there and be amazed.
Antoine Bradford, a song that he has called Trust in You.
Darius Rucker, we would sing his song Wagon Wheel.
Labyrinth, Don't Fence Me In. It's one of his lesser known songs, but it's all about not being categorized or put in a box.
You know, it don't matter. Nobody wanna see us together, but it don't matter.
Otis Redding, I would play with him the song Try a Little Tenderness. I'd either want to be on the organ or the saxophone. Even though I can't play either of those, I'd want to be able to play him because he has such like a nice voice. I love just the tone he has when he sings, and it really just makes you kind of get in the mood of whatever kind of vibe he's singing with. So
perform with Rihanna, but I'd want to rap Family Ties by Kendrick Lamar.
Umbrella by Rihanna. I think it'd be a pretty fun duet to do.
Kanye West, Hey Mama. I think Kanye West had a really good relationship with his mom, and I feel the love that he had for his mom.
I don't have musical talents.
I don't think it says that though. That's not a qualification, so I think you could say.
Sam Cooke, and I would perform with him A Change Is Gonna Come. With Ella May, or an artist called Her, because of their tones. And then the song, I'd let them choose because they're amazing.
My daughter's been getting me into this artist. He's got some Cajun style to him. Trombone Shorty. I don't know if you listen to any Trombone Shorty. So he's got a really cool song, Hurricane Seasons. Playing drums with him, that would be all right. I don't know if I'd sing with him though. I can't keep up. But.
So one of the ones that we just don't talk about, we never talk about, is a man named Robert Smalls. He was born in the 1800s and into slavery in the South. By the age of 23, he had enlisted in the Navy and bought his own freedom. It was like just one of the coolest things ever. This guy was a Chad. And by the time he got out of the military and fought against the Confederacy, he became a state congressman and ultimately built that path on the way to equal rights for Black Americans.
Yes, I think people overall should get a little bit more knowledge about the Reconstruction era, where the focus was to bring African American people into society and abolish slavery once for all. Even though they were having norms and laws that allowed African American people to have more freedom, there was still a lot of debates and problems with society, how they didn't follow them.
One figure that I think should be highlighted more during Black History Month is W.E.B. Du Bois. His book, The Soul of Black Folk, is one of my favorite books of all time, and I think it's a great dive into both the cultural history in the Reconstruction era, as well as looking at sociologically and economically the way that newly freed Black Americans lived during that time.
Yeah, there's a lot of very cool Black artists, visual artists, especially painters. There's one, his name is Kehinde Wiley, and he painted the portraits of the Obamas, and he does some really fascinating work. In general, lots of Black artists that I think in the art world are not as widely discussed.
Black History Month focuses a lot on Black history in America. I would love to hear, especially about like South African apartheid. I feel like there's not that much discussion of that, and I'd love to know more. And I would love if that information was more widely spread.
I think one thing that comes to mind when thinking about Black History Month is oftentimes I think people think it was like so long ago and isn't necessarily relevant to today. But I think just taking it into perspective and realizing like Ruby Bridges is only like in her 60s right now. And so in the grand scheme of things, like that wasn't that long ago, and it's still a prevalent issue today and still something that needs to be talked and learned more about.
I think of inspiration, I think of change, and I think of a lot of growth that both any person of Black heritage had to endure and that they get to celebrate today.
The first person that comes to mind for me is Martin Luther King Jr. and his leadership in our country and the way that he paved the way for freedom and the sacrifice that he made so that others can, be free.
As a young kid, I was really inspired by Black athletes and specifically Black quarterbacks. Those guys were really cool to look up to because there wasn't many Black quarterbacks that were able to succeed at a high level.
The word for me, I would just say is just stay curious. Stay curious to the ways to which history is always at play in the present, and just to grow an awareness of history, especially parts of history where certain stories that are very true in history have been either overlooked or because of structures of oppression have been even silenced and maybe not lifted up to the degree that they have needed to and should continue to be needed to be lifted up. So I just curious and recognizing that so much of Black History Month is just a really beautiful time to get connected with a facet of our history that we've needed to hear for generations that we just haven't. And I know for me personally, Martin Luther King Jr. has been a hero for a while. Every January, MLK Day, I read his letters from a Birmingham jail. He's a faithful Christian writing from jail, put there for really no just cause or reason, and recognizing that he's just got this incredible resilience to be a voice for the voiceless and stand up for the dignity of all people, and kind of that line of, an injustice against one is an injustice against us all. And I love, MLK often quoted this too, that hate doesn't have the power to drive out hate, but only love does. And we hear these quotes, and unless quotes are put in a particular history or tied to a particular story, I think it's difficult for us to learn and grow as individuals and as a society. So that's why history and Black history is so important, to locate these kind of quotes and these kind of names in a particular moment, as broken and hard as it is to face sometimes, but to kind of grow and to learn from that. So
one of my favorite authors actually is James Baldwin. I see you guys have him on the slideshow for Black History Month, and he is just an amazing writer, and he's got a bunch of different perspectives just because he's lived outside of the country. He's a Black man during the Civil Rights Movement, and I think implementing that into our English studies, implementing more Black authors would be very cool. Not just typical stories about slavery and like Tom's Cabin, but like novels that James wrote, kind of making a social narrative, but it's also a story.
As a future educator in an English classroom, I think incorporating different voices of color, not only during the month of February, during Black History Month, but during the entire school year.
Just continued education in schools throughout the year. I think parents can work on that as well, and thinking about what kind of books they're buying their children, and supporting different artists or companies that are run by Black people.
I think that implementing more about Black history into our younger education for our younger children would help create a more inclusive community for the Black community. I think being careful with not thinking that your idea of your community is the normal community, because like just because your community is normal to you, there are people living in different ways that's their normal. So I think having a broader perspective of everyone's community and being willing to branch out into other people's community and see how they live and to accept that's the way that they live, and that's good.
If you don't sit and understand their history of why are they defensive or why do they react the way they do, you really just have to sit back and look at their culture and where they came from and how past actions from other communities have made them react the way they do. So if you just sit and understand, then you're like, okay, I can't take this approach. I must change how I approach this person so we get a positive reaction. And then it's just like a sort of understanding, like you should listen first, seek to understand before being understood, I think is a great start. And then once you get to understand each other, then they begin to warm up, because there's that hostile front. And if you refuse to understand them, then they won't want to warm up to you because you're like against them. Like you're like, there's all this animosity. Like if you seek a middle ground and seek to understand them and where they come from, you can really begin to see change and build community.
If I think about a significant person in Black history, I'm going to pick one that I actually saw and witnessed. I came of political age. I came to think about politics when Obama was running for president, and I was just so struck by his book, Audacity of Hope, and the idea that we have a stake in one another's well-being, and the audacious claim that there's more that unites us than divides us. And to recognize that history isn't something that has happened, but is happening and continues to unfold. It was a momentous time, and I remember celebrating with a bunch of friends while we were in a tech rehearsal the night that Obama won the presidency, and we just recognized that this is an historic moment that we will probably remember forever and ever.
A historical figure in Black history that really inspires me is Shirley Chisholm, who was the first African American and woman to run for the presidency. She was from Brooklyn, and she ran on the U.S. House of Representatives for 7 terms and made a ton of impacts and changes in the political realm for women and for people of color. And it was just a huge inspiration and a trailblazer of her time in the political sphere.
There's one person that comes to mind, and I would say that would be James Baldwin, just because how he explored through literature. And something that I love about him was that we are born fair, but in the world that we are in, it's not fair. And he signifies the fact that there is more problems that we have to overcome. And sometimes you can give up hope and all that, but then I remember when I learned about them, they told me that whenever there is fear, it's because you don't have faith in something. And it's being able to have faith in how future generations are gonna keep moving and keep this culture.
For me, it's Kobe Bryant, basketball player, played in the Lakers for 20 years, made history there. I think, especially to our generations, it's amazing to hear his mindset, even though he's not here anymore. He's resting in peace, but he left an amazing legacy, and all the mindset, the hustle, the hard work, amazing teachings that he left for us. So I think that should definitely be something that kids listen to and they practice that, because they definitely gonna make us better men and better humans.